Vaccine mandate protests are taking over the world. France is entering its 9th week of demonstrations, while Canada's first responders staged a silent rally in front of government buildings. As Canada's election enters its final week, a corruption scandal resurfaces that might just taint Justin Trudeau's chance of being re-elected. The Chinese Communist Party is using its bullying tactics again on countries that are calling Taiwan, Taiwan. But a group of international lawmakers are standing up to the CCP. And finally, in the tourist island of Bali, the effects of the pandemic are not only impacting the locals' income, monkeys are raiding homes in search of food and company. Okay, let's get into it. Protesters in France for a 9th consecutive weekend took to the streets again to rally against COVID-19 vaccine passports and mandates. The Ministry of Interior said that 120,000 people took part in the nationwide demonstrations on September 11th. The week before saw roughly 140,000 demonstrators. Tensions quickly boiled over during the demonstrations. An unknown group of people with sticks attacked the protesters. The attackers ran off when the police came. The police fired tear gas and used batons to drive away the protesters. On the same day, nearly 3,000 people gathered in Istanbul, Turkey to protest against the vaccine mandates. Starting on September 13th, a proof of vaccination or negative COVID-19 test is required for all users of nationwide planes, buses, and trains, as well as for those attending large events such as concerts or theater performances. Besides that, all unvaccinated school employees are required to take a PCR test twice per week. The Turkish health minister said on Twitter on the day of the protest that vaccines are the ultimate solution and that mandating such rules is essential. In Toronto, Canada on September 13th, police officers, firefighters, and paramedics gathered at Queen's Park for a silent protest against mandatory COVID-19 vaccinations. Others protested at Toronto General Hospital. Toronto police later confirmed that no hospital staff or patients were being obstructed. In other parts of the country, about 200 protesters showed up to rally outside Foothills Hospital in Calgary on Monday afternoon. The protest was held in support of frontline workers, as Alberta Health Services and the City of Calgary are requiring employees to receive 2 doses of a COVID-19 vaccine. Similar protests also happened outside the Queen Elizabeth Hospital in Prince Edward Island, at McGill University Hospital Centre in Montreal, Quebec, and at the Queen Elizabeth II Health Sciences Centre in Nova Scotia. While in the midst of an election, Canada's Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has promised that if he is re-elected, his party would crack down on protests outside healthcare facilities. But Trudeau should be more worried about whether or not he can stay afloat with the latest scandals. There's only a few days left before Canada's general election, but Justin Trudeau seems miserable as his scandal with the Montreal engineering company snc-lavalin has resurfaced again. On Tuesday, former Justice Minister Jody Wilson-Raybould, who accused Trudeau of pushing her to lie, launched her memoir, Indian in the Cabinet, Speaking Truth to Power. As Canada's first Indigenous Justice Minister, Wilson-Raybould said, "I got into politics because there are issues I am seriously committed to helping resolve." She joined the Liberal Party because she believed that they shared the same views and thought that Trudeau would be a good Prime Minister and would create a good team. However, after the snc-lavalin scandal, she started to write a memoir reflecting when she first realized she had been wrong. In her memoir, she described how Trudeau pressured her to stop the criminal prosecution of the engineering giant snc-lavalin as it was facing bribery charges related to contracts in Libya. During Wilson-Raybould's last conversation with Trudeau before she resigned in February of 2019, the Prime Minister insisted that he would not clean house or fire anyone, but told Wilson-Raybould if we did, we would not be government. In October, Wilson-Raybould replied, "I would be surprised if we were in government if we did not clean at least some of the house in some way and call some type of investigation. After all, if you are confident you did nothing wrong, then why would you not want to do this?" As the conversation went on, she could see the agitation visibly building in the Prime Minister. Trudeau made it clear that everyone in his office was telling the truth and that Wilson-Raybould, and by extension, her Chief of Staff, Jessica Prince, and others were not. Trudeau told her that she had not experienced what she said she did. He used the line that was later made public that she had experienced things differently. At that moment, Wilson-Raybould knew that Trudeau wanted her to lie. The Justice Minister subsequently resigned from her position. In August of 2019, Canada's Ethics Commissioner Mario Dion found that Trudeau violated conflict of interest rules for trying to interfere in SNC's criminal prosecution. Dion said he was also unable to fully investigate the matter because the government denied him access to the cabinet documents and to fully examine witnesses. SNC later pled guilty to one fraud charge in December of 2019. The company agreed to a $280 million fine and was subjected to 3 years of probation. Up until the recent campaign trail on September 11, 2021, Trudeau still denied that he wanted Wilson-Raybould to lie.
I did not want her to lie. I would never do that. I would never ask her that. That is simply not true.
In Wilson-Raybould's book, she described how cabinet ministers were discouraged from speaking to one another, how top Trudeau aides interfered in policy making, and how ministers were advised to not put anything on paper and to not conduct sensitive policy conversations over the phone. They wouldn't even let senior cabinet ministers have access to the Prime Minister. Wilson-Raybould said, "I just find that incredibly bizarre. You would assume cabinet ministers were the people you can trust the most, but there was a significant amount of control in terms of isolating the Prime Minister from any ministers." Wilson-Raybould's book for sure is a heavy blow to Trudeau and his Liberal Party. Leaders from other parties also sought to use the reemergence of the snc-lavalin affair as a way to remind Canadians that Trudeau is not trustworthy. And it seems like more ethical questions are emerging for Trudeau. Canada's opposition party, the Conservatives, was seeking confirmation from the Ethics Commissioner on September 14th to confirm whether clearance was sought on a book deal with a Chinese state-owned publishing company that republished Justin Trudeau's private memoirs in 2016. It was revealed in a Globe and Mail article recently that Justin Trudeau's memoir, The Legend Continues, was published by a Chinese publishing company after he became Prime Minister. The book was a republished version of Trudeau's 2014 memoir, Common Ground, in Chinese. The publisher, HarperCollins, struck a deal with Yilin Press of Nanjing, China, which is owned by Jiangsu Phoenix Publishing and Media, a state-owned enterprise that takes orders from the propaganda department of the Jiangsu Province Communist Party Committee. The book deal was made at a time when Trudeau was actively pursuing building a relationship with the CCP, including discussing a free trade deal and joining the Asian Infrastructure Bank. Conservative MP Michael Barrett wrote in a letter, "Subsequently, Mr. Trudeau has faced many important decisions regarding Canada's relationship with China, including whether to ban Huawei from Canada's 5G network, choosing to partner with a Chinese state enterprise on the development of a COVID vaccine, responding to China's genocide against the Uyghurs, and the crackdown on Hong Kong." Trudeau said he played no role in the deal. He said, "All the handling of the international editions of my book was done entirely by the publisher, and all of the profits from the book go to the Canadian Red Cross." However, when pressed about whether clearance was sought from the Ethics Commissioner, Trudeau didn't answer directly. Barrett said that a book contract with an entity controlled by the CCP would have implications under the provisions in Section 7 of the Conflict of Interest Act. He added that provisions under Section 21 of the Act would also have Trudeau recuse himself on decisions related to the Chinese regime. We have reported on the 1,000 days of arbitrary detention of the two Michaels. If the ethics watchdog confirmed Trudeau's linkage with the CCP, who should take a stand and rescue the two Michaels? But we shouldn't pin our hopes on Trudeau in the first place. After all, he is the person who admires communist China. In 2013, when asked what country he admired most other than Canada, Trudeau's answer was communist China.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China because basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime and say.
Members of the Asian Canadian community demanded an apology from Trudeau as people from China, Taiwan, Tibet, and Korea said they suffered from what Trudeau publicly praised, the Chinese communist dictatorship. Trudeau's Liberal Party is currently leading over Conservatives by a slim margin. The answer to whether these scandals will affect the outcome of the election, well, we'll just have to wait until September 20th. Before we continue, please subscribe to Front Page International if you haven't already. Our main channel has been suspended again, so we'll be uploading right here on Front Page International. Please help us by spreading the word about this new channel by liking and sharing this video. And if you want to help Front Page, please consider supporting us by donating to our donor box. The link is in the description below. We here at Front Page thank you for your support. Okay, let's get back into it. A mural of George Floyd painted in Afghanistan was painted over on Friday, September 10th. Black Lives Matter, who seem to have a comment for everything, said nothing about the Taliban's move to destroy the Floyd mural. People are asking, why is there a George Floyd mural in Afghanistan in the first place? And why didn't the BLM comment on the event? Some people pointed out that maybe because BLM destroys murals too. In June of 2020, rioters in Portland defaced and toppled a statue of U.S. President George Washington. In July, a statue of Columbus was torn down. In September, the statue of Confederate General Robert E. Lee was removed under the Virginia governor's order. Not only George Floyd's mural, numerous murals were painted over following the botched withdrawal of U.S. troops, such as the one showing U.S. Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad and the Taliban co-founder Abdul Ghani Baradar shaking hands after signing the 2020 deal to withdraw U.S. troops from Afghanistan. Also, the one in central Kabul, which was dedicated to a Japanese doctor and aid worker who was killed in 2019, and the entrance to the former U.S. Embassy in Kabul was painted over with a giant Taliban flag. Many of these were replaced with proclamations of victory or short sentences supporting Taliban's extremist ideology. Omid Sharifi, the co-founder of the Arts War group, believes that the Taliban are trying to silence people by destroying the murals with their comments on social issues. He said, the Taliban was and is an armed movement that only understands guns, violence, beating, beheading, suicide vests, and bombs. There is no vocabulary about art in the Taliban dictionary. They cannot even imagine art. I think they don't understand it. That's why they are destroying it. Members of the Inter-Parliamentary Alliance on China, the IPAC, which is a multinational network of lawmakers concerned about Communist China's disregard for the rule of law and human rights, are calling for solidarity with Lithuania and Taiwan, which are both facing intimidation. Lithuania agreed in July to allow Taiwan to open a representative office in the Baltic nation under the name of Taiwan. Since then, the communist regime has recalled its ambassador and forced Lithuania to recall its ambassador to China. Beijing also continues to try and economically punish Lithuania. The Baltic Times reported last month that China had stopped approving new export permits for some Lithuanian businesses. Several freight trains from China to Lithuania were also suspended to halt the transportation of goods. The Chinese Communist Party views Taiwan as a part of its territory and tries to intimidate governments and international organizations for any action that it perceives as suggesting that Taiwan is an independent country. In a video created by IPAC members, many international dignitaries spoke in support of Lithuania and Taiwan. Reinhard Bütikofer, a member of the European Parliament representing Germany, said, if Lithuania is punished by Beijing, its democratic allies across the world must be ready to assist. Shiori Yamao, a member of Japan's House of Representatives, said, Taiwan has a vital role to play in the international community, and all states have the right to establish relations with Taiwan as they see fit. In response to IPAC's appeal, Taiwan's Ministry of Foreign Affairs took to Twitter to say it appreciated the impassioned support voiced by the IPAC members. Voices of the free world ring loud and clear, the ministry stated. U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken and Deputy Secretary Wendy Sherman both spoke with Lithuania's foreign minister in August to voice support for the Baltic nation. The name of Taiwan's representative office in the United States, which is currently called the Taipei Economic and Cultural Representative Office, has recently also gained attention. On September 11th, the Financial Times reported that the Biden administration was considering changing the Taiwanese mission's name to the Taiwan Representative Office, citing unnamed sources. The United States currently is not a formal diplomatic ally of Taiwan. Washington changed its diplomatic recognition in favor of Beijing in 1979. Since then, the United States has maintained a non-diplomatic relationship with Taiwan based on the Taiwan Relations Act. China's state-run media, the Global Times, published a warmongering editorial on September 12th. If the name change happened, as suggested by the Financial Times report, the outlet said Beijing would impose severe economic sanctions on Taiwan and carry out an economic blockade on the island. The Global Times editorial also stated that China would fly military jets over Taiwan and place the island's airspace into the patrol area of the Chinese military. A convicted militant and suspected leader of an Al-Qaeda-linked group has been arrested by Indonesia's counterterrorism squad. Abu Rusdan was seized late on Friday in Bekasi, near the capital of Jakarta, along with 3 other suspected members. Indonesian authorities consider Rusdan to be a key figure in the Jemaah Islamiyah, which the U.S. has designated as a terrorist group. The Jemaah is blamed for attacks in the Philippines and Indonesia, including the 2002 bombings of the Indonesian resort island of Bali that killed over 200 people who were mostly foreign tourists. Indonesian police described the arrests as part of a broader nationwide crackdown on the group. In the past weeks, the Indonesia Police Counterterrorism Unit has swept up 53 alleged members of the Jemaah across 11 different provinces. The police claimed that they are still actively searching for other suspected members following tips that the group was recruiting and training new members in Indonesia. Next, hungry monkeys on the island of Bali, Indonesia, are now raiding the homes of local villagers in their search for something tasty. Tourism is the main source of money for Bali's 4 million people. Prior to the pandemic, the island welcomed more than 5 million foreign visitors every year. The Sengay Monkey Forest usually had about 6,000 visitors a month, but as the pandemic spread last year and as international travel decreased, that number dropped to about 500. Since July, there have been no visitors. The government banned foreign travelers to the island and closed the monkeys area to local residents as well. Villagers say that the monkeys have been leaving their protected area and positioning themselves on the top of homes, waiting for the right time to grab food. The villagers are concerned that the home visits could turn into a large monkey invasion. So they have been taking fruit and peanuts to the monkey forest to try to keep the apes happy. Food costs at the monkey forest run about $60 a day for 200 kilograms of cassava and 10 kilograms of bananas. Maudi Mohan, the operations manager for the protected area, said food for monkeys has become a problem. Besides that, monkeys here are already used to spending all day with visitors, stealing sunglasses and water bottles, pulling at clothes and jumping on shoulders. Villager Saskara Gusta said that the monkeys are now hungry and bored, and they are afraid that the monkeys will turn wild and vicious. He said, "That's why I have urged villagers here to come to the forest to play with the monkeys and offer them food. I think they need to interact with humans as often as possible so that they do not go wild." Okay, this is our show for today. Thank you for watching our new show, Front Page International. Please help us to spread the word by liking, subscribing, and sharing this video, because everybody deserves to know the truth. Again, thank you for watching Front Page, and we will see you next time.